What exactly is Etsy SEO? How do you know if your listings are optimized for Etsy's search algorithm? These are important things to understand for any Etsy seller seeking success. So we're going to make sure you have a good handle on them in this episode of The Jam.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Jade.
I'm Gordon.
I'm Richie, and this is The Jam with Team Marmalead. So what is Marmalead? Is it a set of tools? Is it a resource? Is it education? Yes. Yes, it is. It's all of those. Marmalead helps you grow your sales with real shopper keywords. We use machine learning to take the guesswork out of getting found on Etsy. So if you have an Etsy shop and you want your listings to be found first by shoppers, you want them to show up in the right places where shoppers have an opportunity to buy them, then you want Marmalead. You want the keywords we have, and you want the education and the community around Marmalead to help you get there. Now you can check out Marmalead at marmalead.com, and that is marmalead.com. See you there.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
All right, Lisa. Well, today we're going to talk about what is Etsy SEO. We're going to unpack the basics of Etsy SEO, get right back down to the roots.
So starting with what SEO is, what does it stand for? It stands for Search Engine Optimization. And like Richie said, we're going to totally unpack that for you guys. Basically, what it comes down to is when computers need to make sense of things and organize things, they need to look at a bunch of different little, attributes or data points, and they need to put those things in order in a way that makes sense to them. They can't just look at something and say, oh, this is what it is and this is where it should go. They need to have little tiny bits of criteria that they all put together so that they can make sense of all of those different pieces of data.
Right, and basically, those specific pieces of information that Gordon's talking about that the algorithm needs, sometimes those things are going to shift across time. So like what the algorithm is looking for at one point in time, it might be looking for something slightly different at a different point in time. And so that's why we're always basically working hand in hand with just about every resource that we can come up with to make sure that our tools are in direct alignment with what that algorithm is looking for to help you set up your listings, and get them optimized for what that algorithm is looking for. And that's also why we're always encouraging you to keep up with maintaining your listings, in alignment with those changes that happen. We want you to stay in front of those shifts and those little changes that happen, because it's always easier to learn something while it's happening instead of sort of from behind the curve.
I should point out, too, that when people normally talk about SEO, like if you go to find a book on SEO or a blog post on SEO, chances are it's talking about Google SEO or something bigger than Etsy SEO. I know people say this all the time, but I want to kind of like reiterate it because it's true and it's important to distinguish between the different areas of SEO. Every search engine, anything that's doing a search, is handling it in its own way. So Google is doing SEO one way. Yahoo probably has another way of doing it. Bing probably just copies what Google is doing. Etsy has their own environment, their own algorithm, their own data that they're looking at, and it's completely different than what you're going to see elsewhere when you're searching for SEO. So it's important to just recognize that the rules of Etsy's SEO are completely different than SEO that you'll find in other places.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, essentially, if you're going to Google, it's going to be more information focused than if you're going to a platform like Etsy, where it's very product oriented and product focused. So what the algorithm looks for is going to be different for every platform. Am I kind of repeating that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So with regard to Etsy SEO, are there, we were kind of talking about the things that shift a lot, but are there parts of SEO that are more or less permanent, so to speak?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Keywords, right? That's something that's not going to change. When someone goes to a search engine, any of these, they pretty much exclusively have to type in keywords to find what they're looking for. Even if you're doing some sort of a voice search, right? It's looking for what you said. When we're searching these essentially databases, it's just using keywords. And we say something, and it's going to find all the information it has that it thinks is the best for what we called it. So really, that's the root of it. What we call it kind of determines everything.
Right. So basically,
now maybe
Go ahead.
Until a search engine can read your mind, I think it kind of seems like keywords are going to be at the heart of it.
Absolutely. And I mean, even if if I ask you to think about what you'd call something, so if I held up, a coffee mug in front of you and said, don't say it, don't use words, don't say it to me, but think about, what you'd call this. Words are going through your mind. So even if it was reading your mind, it'd still be reading words. I still think in words.
Yeah, good point. I guess at its heart, Marmalead is a keyword research tool. I don't guess. It is at its heart a keyword research tool. So I don't know. I've always kind of thought of keywords as, when I go to explain it to, our customers who are asking questions, it's kind of like an opportunity to shake hands with your potential buyer, so to speak. So if I could just use a quick example, let me think, like custom leather bracelets. Let's say that you're selling custom leather bracelets. So that means you'd probably use the keyword custom leather bracelets, and then you're going to apply it to your listing following, the current Etsy SEO guidelines. And if a shopper then heads to Etsy looking for a product like a custom leather bracelet, they're going to get there, they're going to meet that search bar, and from there they're going to type in a keyword. And you probably use the keyword custom leather bracelet, and then that's it. That's your handshake opportunity. If you've used that keyword on your listing and that's the keyword that the customer uses in Etsy search, that's your handshake opportunity, because your listing, as long as you've applied it following those Etsy SEO guidelines, it's going to be there in those search results.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot like walking into a store and saying, hey, where can I find leather bracelets? Or do you have bracelets? Versus walking in and saying like, hey, I'm looking for something to put on my wrist. But either way, right, somebody is going to be able to guide you to that part of the store, as opposed to you just kind of wandering around.
I think that's a great way of describing it.
So the back to the basics bottom line is that Etsy SEO is about creating listings that are optimized for what the Etsy search algorithm is looking for, and the keywords in your titles and tags are the primary vehicle of that optimization. Basically, help Etsy help your customers find you. That's really what it's coming down to.